The call came at 6:17 on a bright Tuesday morning. By 6:18, Nolan Mercer felt his entire world collapsing around him. The sunlight pouring through the small apartment windows suddenly felt cold. The coffee in his hand slipped from his fingers and shattered across the kitchen floor. His heart pounded so hard he could barely hear the doctor's voice on the other end of the phone. His daughter needed treatment immediately. Without it, her condition would continue to worsen. Without it, the little girl who filled his life with laughter might not have the future he had always dreamed of giving her. Nolan stood frozen in silence, staring at the family photo hanging on the wall. In it, 7-year-old Arya was smiling with missing front teeth and sparkling eyes, holding a handmade paper crown she had proudly created at school. That smile was everything. That smile was worth fighting for. And in that moment, Nolan made a promise to himself. No matter what it cost. No matter how hard he had to work. No matter how impossible the road became. He would save his daughter. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still exists in this world and that ordinary people deserve second chances, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Your support helps these powerful stories reach more hearts around the world. The days that followed became a blur of hospital visits, medical paperwork, insurance calls, and sleepless nights. Nolan had already been struggling financially long before the diagnosis. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise Arya alone. Since then, every day had felt like a balancing act between grief, responsibility, and survival. He had once worked as a maintenance supervisor for a manufacturing company. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to keep food on the table and provide stability. Then the factory downsized during an economic downturn, and Nolan lost the job he had held for nearly 12 years. Since then, he had bounced between temporary positions, odd jobs, and contract work. Nothing lasted. Nothing paid enough. Yet somehow he always found a way to keep moving. For Arya. The treatment plan the doctors recommended carried a cost that seemed impossible. Even after insurance assistance, thousands of dollars remained uncovered. Thousands he simply didn't have. At first, Nolan sold everything he could. The motorcycle he had rebuilt with his father years ago. His collection of vintage tools. The television. Furniture. Anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Every dollar went into a special account dedicated to Arya's treatment. Still, it wasn't enough. Weeks passed. Bills piled higher. Fear grew heavier. Then one afternoon, while waiting at a hospital pharmacy, Nolan noticed a hiring advertisement posted on a bulletin board. The position was simple. Airport janitor. Night shift. Long hours. Immediate hiring. The pay wasn't great. But it offered health benefits and guaranteed overtime. Without hesitation, Nolan applied. 2 days later, he started. Every evening after putting Arya to bed, he would leave the apartment and drive 30 minutes to Westbridge International Airport. Most travelers never noticed people like Nolan. They hurried through terminals carrying expensive luggage, checking watches, answering emails, and boarding flights. Meanwhile, workers like him quietly cleaned the spaces everyone else used. He emptied trash bins. Mopped floors. Sanitized restrooms. Collected abandoned cups and food containers. Polished windows. Worked until sunrise. Then returned home to prepare breakfast for his daughter before taking her to school and attending medical appointments. His body ached constantly. His hands became rough and cracked. Dark circles formed beneath his eyes. Yet he never complained. Every exhausting shift brought him one step closer to helping Arya. One night, nearly 3 months into the job, Nolan noticed an elderly woman struggling with several heavy suitcases near a terminal entrance. Technically, Helping passengers wasn't part of his responsibilities. Still, he walked over. Without expecting anything in return, he carried the luggage across the terminal and helped her reach the correct gate. The woman thanked him with tears in her eyes. For Nolan, it was just the right thing to do. He returned to work and forgot about it. What he didn't realize was that someone had been watching. A man standing several yards away. A man dressed in simple clothing that blended easily into the crowd. A man who happened to own the entire airport. His name was Everett Langford. Few people recognized him because he rarely appeared in public as a billionaire executive. Unlike many corporate leaders, Everett preferred observing operations quietly. He often walked through his properties unnoticed, watching how employees treated people when they thought nobody important was around. That night, he noticed something unusual about Nolan. Not because Nolan worked harder than everyone else. Not because he sought attention. But because he treated strangers with genuine kindness. The next few weeks brought more opportunities for Everett to observe. He saw Nolan helping a lost child reunite with anxious parents. He saw him buying a sandwich for a homeless veteran waiting outside during a rainstorm. He saw him staying late to help another employee finish cleaning after a difficult shift. Always without recognition. Always without complaint. Always expecting nothing in return. Meanwhile, Nolan's personal life grew more difficult. Area's treatments intensified. Medical expenses increased. One evening he discovered a final notice attached to his apartment door warning of possible eviction if overdue payments weren't resolved. He sat in his car afterward and cried for the first time in years. Not because he was weak. Not because he wanted sympathy. But because he was exhausted. He had given everything. And still it felt like it wasn't enough. Yet when he arrived home that night, Arya greeted him with a handmade drawing. The picture showed a superhero wearing a janitor uniform and holding a giant broom like a sword. Above the drawing were 3 words written in colorful crayons. My hero, Dad. Nolan smiled through tears. In that moment, he remembered exactly why he kept fighting. The following month brought an unexpected crisis. A severe storm struck the city, causing flight cancellations throughout the airport. Thousands of frustrated travelers became stranded overnight. Employees scrambled to manage chaos. Tempers flared. Complaints poured in. Many workers reached their breaking point. But Nolan remained calm. For 16 straight hours, he worked without stopping. He cleaned flooded hallways. Helped elderly passengers find seating. Distributed water bottles. Guided confused families through crowded terminals. And encouraged co-workers who were struggling. By sunrise, he could barely stand. Yet somehow he kept going. What he didn't know was that Everett Langford was once again watching. This time, however, Everett wasn't alone. Several senior executives accompanied him during an operational review. They witnessed Nolan's actions firsthand. One executive pointed toward him. That janitor has been working non-stop all night. Another nodded. He seems to care more than some managers. Everett said nothing. But he couldn't stop thinking about Nolan. Something about the man stood out. Not because of talent. Not because of ambition. But because of character. A few days later, Everett requested a confidential report on Nolan's employment history. The information shocked him. Widowed father. Medical debt. Multiple jobs. No criminal record. Outstanding performance reviews. No complaints. No disciplinary issues. Just a hard-working father trying desperately to save his child. Everett sat quietly in his office overlooking the city skyline. For years he had searched for leaders who possessed qualities impossible to teach. Integrity. Compassion. Resilience. Humility. Most applicants arrived with impressive resumes. Nolan had something far rarer. A proven record of putting others first even when life gave him every reason to become bitter. And that made Everett curious. Very curious. A week later, Nolan received a message instructing him to report to the executive conference floor on Friday morning. He assumed there had been some mistake. Janitors didn't get invited to executive floors. Certainly not him. The entire week he worried. Had he accidentally broken a rule? Was he being terminated? Would he lose the job that kept his daughter's treatment alive? Friday finally arrived. Nolan borrowed his only dress shirt. The collar felt slightly too tight. His worn shoes showed signs of age. His hands still carried evidence of months spent working long nights. As he entered the elevator, anxiety twisted inside his stomach. The higher the elevator climbed, the more nervous he became. When the doors finally opened, he stepped into a luxurious hallway unlike anything he had seen before. Glass walls. Modern artwork. Polished marble floors. Everything felt impossibly distant from his ordinary life. An assistant greeted him warmly and led him toward a large conference room. Nolan paused outside the door. His heart raced. Inside waited people whose lives looked nothing like his own. People with power. Influence. Wealth. People who could change his future with a single decision. Taking a deep breath, he reached for the handle. He had no idea that the meeting waiting on the other side was about to transform his life forever. And he certainly had no idea that before the day ended, someone would offer him an opportunity worth $68,000 a month. An opportunity that would not only save his daughter, but inspire an entire company. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to leave a red heart in the comments and let us know what part of Nolan's journey has affected you most. Stories like these remind us that even in our darkest moments, hope can arrive from the most unexpected places. Comment, never give up, if you believe a parent's love can overcome impossible odds. Nolan placed his hand on the conference room door and slowly pushed it open. And what he saw inside left him completely speechless.